You're watching Power Nation.
Our ultimate Ford 300 project gets wrapped up and heads to the engine dyno. After a long and in-depth build with all kinds of upgrades, custom pieces, and a brand new combination, we can't wait to see what this thing is gonna put down.
It's Dyno Mania, because today we are going to run this engine naturally aspirated, gather our data, tear it down, switch it over to turbocharge, and put down some big numbers for this Inline Six.
All right, everyone, today is the day. Here in Engine Power, our ultimate Ford 300 build is hitting the dyno. We're gonna get this baby wrapped up, we're gonna get it into the dyno cell, and we're gonna be dynoing this both naturally aspirated and under big boost.
This is big stuff for us because we're gonna gather a lot of data. We've got O2 sensors, we've got EGTs, we're gonna use a lot of that data. We're gonna get this thing tuned in, naturally aspirated, because that's gonna determine what it's gonna make under boost. Now, this is episode 3 of our Ultimate Ford 300 trilogy. So to get it to this point, here's what happened in episodes 1 and 2.
The previous version of this engine was extremely good and cranked out some great power, but since then we have been planning the next iteration to make even more. We jumped right into the disassembly process, and even at our stout power level with a lot of factory components, the parts all looked great. The first modifications happened on the block as we ground down the casting for a hydraulic roller lifter mod, ported all the oil galleries, and deburred the entire block.
After a quick wash in the cleaner, we prepped and filled the coolant passageway upside down to help increase the strength and rigidity of the deck and the cylinders before later opening up the coolant ports to retain coolant flow. The block was torque plate honed in our Sunnen SV15 for our new pistons and higher cylinder pressure. Our forged crankshaft got balanced in our CWT Multibell 5500, and the entire engine received a new but classic paint job with POR 15 engine enamel.
With the bearing clearances set, the assembly process started with our factory forged crank and a custom ground billet hydraulic roller cam from Comp Cams. What followed was a set of Molnar forged 6/800 long HB rods and a set of custom-made DSS racing pistons that have a 1-2-10 compression height, 10 cc dish, and a modern 1.2 3mm ring pack. The cylinder head is a CNC-ported new EFI casting from ProMax Performance, was set up with a Comp conical spring set, and is held down with ARP studs.
We sealed it up with a Felpro severe duty head gasket with a 4-180 bore and a 39 thousandths compressed thickness, which combined with our 83.4 cc chamber gives us a static compression ratio of 9.21 to 1. The cam gear and timing cover were modified for a Holley cam sync sensor, a modified Fluidampr small block Ford damper was installed, then the critical 36-1 crank trigger setup from Holley went on with our front drive.
This is a CVF Racing serpentine system for the 300 platform that has all the accessories and clears this Offenhauser C-Series intake that was converted to EFI by Wilson Manifolds. We installed our dyno header for the NA dyno session and then used a plethora of Holley EFI parts to build a fully custom sequential fuel injection and coil near plug ignition EFI system for our Ford Inline Six. We are wasting no time today, so we already have our 300 on a dyno cart. We've rolled it into the dyno and gone through most of the basic hookup. We've got water lines, fuel lines, and even hooked up the alternator, so this thing will charge the dyno. And the last thing we need to do is install a few critical sensors for our EFI system before we can actually run this engine. For those, we're going to be using Duralast sensors because, like we said, this is not just a dyno queen, this is a street engine that's going to go in a vehicle later on. So we want sensors that are going to be durable, be accurate, and last a long time. We've been using Duralast sensors in all of our builds, so they're ones that we trust. For this application, we need a TPS and idle air control motor for our 102mm throttle body. The TPS has the correct spacing, the correct clocking, and the correct connector for our application. This is going to give the ECU critical data on the throttle position when we are running it on the dyno. Duralast sensors are designed to be an OE replacement, so they have the correct function, fit, and form, but they are actually reverse engineered from the OE sensors so that if Duralast finds any common problems or even potential problems, they actually go through and reverse engineer the sensor to fix them and keep them from happening in the future. For the other sensor, we need an idle air control motor. For this one, we are actually using a Duralast Gold sensor. And the reason we like using these is because it not only comes with the high quality sensor, but it comes with the matching pigtail and a splice kit. This means that if you are working with a damaged harness or potentially someone broke it before you, you have a brand new connector that you can splice in and fix the harness before you get going. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get these two installed. All right, we got our harnesses all finished up, loomed and verified. So we're gonna get our sub harnesses installed and then we'll get the main harness hooked up and connected to the dyno.
Starting off, we will hook up our custom fuel injector harness, followed closely by the coil harness. We mounted our Holley HP series ECU to the dyno and finished up hooking up the fuel pressure sensor, coolant temp sensor, and made sure the main harness is securely fastened into the ECU. Up next, it's the first fire up on our high-tech vintage iron. All right, you think you know where you are now and all that? So
Yep.
I'm gonna
got a base file in there. Go ahead and give her fuel and start her up.
no leaks. This is the exciting part.
Go for it.
Here we go. The wiring harness is correct.
We didn't show that, I guess, because it takes it's very tedious. It takes a little bit of time, so we didn't show a lot of it.
Yep.
But when you get it done, we don't just throw it on there and just hope it works. We actually go through, we can do system output checks, we can do continuity checks, and basically verify our harness is right before it ever actually tries to function. So
We have 6 EGTs, we have 6 O2s on it. It seems like overkill, not for testing, it's not, because that's why we have these. This is data we are acquiring, data we are showing people. So when anyone wants to build an engine at any level, carbureted, injected, we already have some experience at it, and people can look at what we've done. So we are gonna do the quintessential keep its guts run, right? We're gonna go from 2,000 to 4,500 at 600 a second on acceleration rate.
yeah, I'd like to make a run, and then we can go through, double check everything, data logs, engine, all of it, check all of it, and then we can start tuning on it.
Ooh, this is my favorite part. Look at that.
Nice and smooth, good.
Nice loading, and all the O2s look good.
Yep. Nice. Not bad on the groupings. I was watching that.
Very
a little bit.
nice.
Has great negative crankcase pressure.
It's good circulation. Is that a word? Whoa.
Dang. Okay, so already, and this is shutting her down early, it's obviously trending up.
Yeah.
275 for power, 321 for torque. So we're already over what our previous build was for NA power. And don't forget, we're down 7/10 of a point of compression.
And everything looks great.
Everything else looks good. Oil pressure looks great.
Yeah.
Fuel looks great. AFRs are tracking right where they're supposed to be. I'd like to check some stuff on the engine and maybe go through some of this, and then we'll make some real runs.
All right, let's do that. All right, everything seems to still be attached. So
Yeah, I mean, checked everything, went through and made some corrections on the fueling in the base table and cylinders, hoping to bring those together a little bit. I think we're ready to make a real pool, like an actual pool.
yeah. Now, I have made the executive decision to pull it from 2,500 to 5,500.
I don't like that decision at all.
That's too bad.
No, that's perfect.
What I was impressed with is the delta on the on that little run on the head where the filler is.
Yeah.
It didn't seem it was like a 20-degree difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good for basically solidifying around the top of the cylinder, but we still have,
There's water going through it.
there's still water going through it. So far, that is a success.
We'll take that. All right, here we go. Wow. I'm just gonna go ahead and say nice job on the fuel and timing maps.
That was killer. Like, there was
you are
nice and tight.
to be commended.
Okay.
Look at that operation, eh?
296.6 and 334 pound-feet. So, again, still shallow on timing.
Wow.
But we are up
This is
almost,
It's just
I mean,
crushing on
30
horsepower.
horse.
Now,
Wow.
first comment someone's gonna make is, all that money for 30 horse.
Yeah,
you have to look at the bigger picture.
But you have to look at the bigger picture, and you have to look, I mean, power under the curve, like 15 pound-feet at 4,500.
Yeah, it's up a bunch of power.
Yeah, let's put some timing in it and make some runs.
We're gonna see what it does.
Yeah,
all right.
It's a montage. Let's key it up, make a run, and see if we can get some good numbers here.
It starts so nice.
It does.
Silky. It just
Oh, yeah.
It's at least a number, right?
300.5, which is 300. Okay, so let's see here. See, I like that we have not killed any torque basically,
No.
and we are, again, 7/10 down on compression, and we have picked up 30 horsepower on this
Yeah.
thing, which is, I mean, percentage-wise, is huge. I mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So
Yeah,
I'm
excellent.
extremely happy with that.
Because now we have a number that naturally aspirated, and it's pretty easy to calculate, right? Because we're using atmosphere, right? So however much we put in boost, like say if we just use a nice round number, 15 PSI, should it make 600?
I mean, theoretically, we should have a direct correlation.
Yeah, keep in
Only
mind-
thing left now is to
Yeah.
tear it down.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah. Up next, we ditch the header and get with something better as we set this engine up to make big boost and big power. All right, that is a successful naturally aspirated dyno session with our 300, so now it's time to switch it to its turbo mode. So I'm gonna work on getting this thing disassembled, and one of the partners we had on this build is ARP. This is a company that we love working with. They have a great history, and to tell you a little bit about it, we have a special guest with Pat.
We use a lot of ARP in the shop, and it's always great to have the person that can tell us a whole lot more about it here as well. Chris Ratchke from ARP. Now, Chris, you guys obviously are an integral part of not only our stuff, but racing in general, the racing industry. I know that covers a broad scope. Now, tell us a little bit about the evolution of how ARP's fasteners were created, because it's a cool story.
Well, Gary Holzapfel started out in the aerospace industry and was a machinist by trade, and he started a little bolt business, making bolts in his garage at home. And that expanded into a little shop in Chatsworth, California, which happened to be across the street from Don Perdone's drag racing shop. And he saw a need for some better fasteners, and he approached Don about doing that, and that got us into the drag racing world.
Tell me a little bit about where you came from, how you started at ARP, and how you ended up with a Black Cat.
I started at a shop called Detweiler Performance in 1983. I got involved in racing the dirt mini stock Pinto. One day my tool dealer came by, and he said, hey, you ought to go over to Santa Paula and talk to these guys at ARP. They make studs, and get a set of head studs for your Pinto. So I took a 12-pack of Coors Light over there on a Saturday and talked to this gentleman named Mike Holzapfel, and we became buddies. And several years later, he asked if I wanted to come to work for him. It's been 30 years now, and further down the road, I got involved with some land speed racing, and I was fortunate enough to get involved with a car called the Speed Demon with George Poteet. One day, George asked if I'd like to drive that car, and I said, sure. My last pass in the car went 459 miles an hour. Set a record. I got this black hat. The black hat is for any records that are over 400 miles an hour plus, and I'm only the 13th person to do it with a wheel-driven car.
So I track everything from Formula One all the way down, and you guys have been heavily involved with that, and we appreciate all that. You guys have been great, and you do a lot for us, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we've got our header off and our intake off, and everything is clean, so we are ready to install our turbo manifold. This is from Stainless Header Manufacturing. This is specific for the 300. It is their back exit style. They have a couple different configurations depending on your application, but for this one, we have added twin 45mm wastegate ports, an EGT bung, and wrapped it with some header wrap to try and conserve heat and keep it out of the intake manifold. So we're gonna get this on, and we'll get our intake sealed back up. We are replacing the intake/exhaust gasket, and we are using some high temp sealer to prevent leaks. The turbo manifold has a 3/8 of an inch thick stainless flange to prevent warping under high heat, and once the intake is set back in place, they are both rigorously tightened in place with ARP stainless bolts.
The rest of the turbo system we found at Summit Racing Equipment, including twin TurboSmart Hypergate 45mm wastegates and our Turbonetics Sylvia 7268 Turbo from last time. The oil drain and feed lines are made with Earl's fittings and hose, and then our Holley 3-port boost solenoid is plumbed into the wastegates using pressure-rated 1/4-inch hose and secured with zip ties because of the smaller diameter.
Crazy enough, we can reuse our down pipe from the last version, and we made twin dump pipes for the wastegates out of 1 3/4-inch stainless tubing. Old reliable, our stock Duramax Charge air cooler is set into place and hooked to the engine with an assortment of tubing and adapters for dyno purposes only before the TurboSmart blow-off valve we welded in is connected to manifold pressure.
Finally, everything is reconnected and double-checked, and we are ready to go.
Turbo time. Coming up, it's turbo time, and we're gonna push our 300 for big pump gas power. Okay, Ford 300 with a turbo, running very beautifully in the dyno.
Everything looks great, and I am very, very excited about this. Now,
Me as well. So what we're gonna do, we've already put 12 pounds of wastegate spring into the wastegate,
Yeah.
so that is where we're gonna start and ramp up.
and for whatever reason, you somehow took the bookmark out
nice.
for all my cat videos, so.
Why you wanna watch cat videos when you have this in front of you?
All right, I'm ready.
Here we go.
Let her buck.
Boost.
Ooh, already got the boosty.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Wow. We got 555 horsepower already. Peaks at 623 pound-feet.
Yep.
EGTs look good. Fuel looks good.
Everything looked good. You know, the big thing when you're making power on pump gas, right? The big wild card is the pump gas.
Yeah.
So
You know, your tune-up could be solid. You could just get a bad batch. So.
I'm right there with it. This curve looks crazy. It's by design, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to just let her bake at 600 pound-feet, at 2,000 RPM.
We actually have a ramp in the car. I put a ramp in, so it goes at 2,500. It's not trying to add a bunch of boost, and then as it goes from 2,500 to 3,000 or 3,500, it starts to ramp in.
Holley does an excellent job in all the software
Yep.
and all the controls for this.
Hit the keys there.
All right.
14.
This is 14 PSI.
At operating temp, we're at
Yep.
169. Ready?
Yep, we're logging.
All right, here we go.
Jesus.
Oh boy.
Oh man. That is.
Did you see that?
Pull that up.
Holy crap.
That is mean right there.
This is like super fun, right? Think about this. We have a engine that was originally designed to make 80 horsepower, and it's making 648.2 pound-feet and 573 horsepower.
All right, spicy pump gas stuff, right? I would like to go 16 and a half PSI.
I was thinking 16 and a half because that should put us at 600 horsepower.
Mathematically, that's what it should put us at, right? I don't think that we're gonna have any problems.
I don't think so.
So far, so good.
I've set everything up to be extremely safe on fueling and timing. Look at you. You're getting the hang of this. You're gonna be turbo stuff, man.
Usually I do a vacuum line and a typewriter on my carburetor. So this is very similar. It's going to be good or not so good.
Hold on to your chair there.
I'm ready. All right.
All right, here we go.
Listen to that thing. Whoa, we can see where that ramps in. Holy. Woo-hoo. It did it. It did it. It did it.
Holy moly.
Pull that up. 702.7 pound-feet and the magic number, 601.8. That is unbelievably good right there.
All right, we'll shut her down because I think that's probably where we're gonna stop. Just looking at crankcase pressure, looking at EGTs, it's looking like the limit for pump gas stuff.
Here's what we have learned. on our particular setup at this boost level with this amount of fuel and this type of fuel going in it,
Yeah.
I think we are done.
Here's the number that starts to concern me. EGT's getting real close to 1,700. Now it is in one central point,
It's a
and it's
concentrated point, yeah.
pre-turbo, but still, again, we're still in vacuum in the crankcase, but it's starting to come up. We're starting
Yeah.
to see that. That tells me we're getting to a cylinder pressure level for this fuel that is too much. This will live up to this power level absolutely in a street car. It will get 20 plus miles a gallon with the right trans and rear end combo and stuff. So I think this is a win all the way around.
And one of the great things is our block fill, our grout fill on the top where
Yeah.
the deck is. We didn't see any crazy temper differential on where the grout was versus the top of the block wasn't hot, didn't roach nothing out.
Nope.
My favorite thing about the comments, you know, on the iteration, we do this thing, a lot of people look at it. So, you know, the cam is too big, the cam is too small, the turbo is too big, the turbo is too small. We have a split duration instead of a single pattern cam. There's all these things that people that they say a lot of stuff, but we have an actual dyno verified 600 horsepower, 700 pound-feet inline six on pump gas.
Yeah, no, we're not trying to break world records, but I think this
No.
is the ultimate 300. It has the coolest of parts, it's got the baddest of stuff in it, and it makes killer power on pump gas.
It is the ultimate pump gas 300 in my opinion. So,
Yeah, for sure. Good job.
Great success.